Welcome to my video about this case that I made out of Perspex, acrylic Perspex, same thing, some years ago. It's really just going to tell you how to make a cheap and commodious case that can be effectively sealed to the wall, and you can store a number of cars in it. And this case has actually got lots of 43rd scale cars, but it's also got a 18th scale Corvette and Lamborghini Huracan and an 18th scale Smart Roadster Coupe at the back, and 43rd scale truck and another 18th scale at the back there. I did used to have 12th scale cars in this case, but I've got rid of much of my 12th scale items. In fact, maybe I'll mention this little case on the top, which was really the prototype of this case. So this one is just a box, a 5-sided box with an open bottom under there, so you can just pick that up and you put your pieces that you want to display, and then you drop it down on top. So you'd need a surface to put that on, and of course you've got a surface to put this on, but this does have a bottom to it. This so there's a Perspex sheet at the bottom that all these particular cars are on. So going to this one, we can look at the construction here. So we've got Perspex sheet, and then here we've got Perspex sheet starting there, going that way. So this is the end of the sheet you see here, which is why it's a bit cloudy or whatever, because it's not a polished finish. And you use acrylic or Perspex cement to basically weld this sheet to that sheet. Now these are quite easy to make because you put your sheet on the table and then you just build on top of it. So this sheet starts here, so you're just building on top of that one. So a really simple affair. In it I've got my Airfix red arrow that I built with my son some years ago, and a Corgi Trekker, a Shaper Trekker, a Dada motor, and another Dada motor at the back, and this and that. Nothing particularly special. But going to this main box here, the beauty of this one is that each of the 7 pieces that make this box up is identical. So you can order one shape of sheet, order 7 of them, and you can order an off-the-shelf sheet if you like. Now, these sheets that I've used here are 420 millimeters by 400 millimeters, and it's 5 millimeter wide. So the 5 millimeter times 1 times 2, so that's 10 millimeters there. So if you've got your 420 sheet minus 10 millimeters is what gave me the 400 millimeter sheet. So that is key, because of course you do want this to come to the back, but this top, that shelf, and the bottom do not go right to the back. So you've got a 5 millimeter gap in at the back there. So going to the front, you've got this side takes up the whole side. Okay, there's an edge along the top and a edge along this side, but that's not an edge there or an edge there or an edge down here. So this actually is this side and the far side are 420 by 400. So 420 that way, and then when you put your shelves in, it's 400 this way and 420 that way. So this front piece is 420, okay, and each of the shelves is 420, which means the top is 400. It's 420 this way, 400 that way, 400 that way, 400 that way, and 400 that way. Hence, you've got these gaps at the back. Now, the gaps at the end of the shelves don't matter, but the gap at the bottom does matter, because you're going to let dust in through there, and the gap at the top. Now, the gap at the top I've just sealed with these just pieces of old Perspex just lying on top. But at the bottom, I put an acetate sheet, you know, the just a clear sheet of A4 that I've cut up, or you could get an A3, but A4 is fine. I've got 2 of those and I've just taped them, or maybe even I've Perspex glued them to the case itself. Now, it is tricky to make this because you're trying to hold all these sheets together in a box all at once. Okay, so you might want a right angle piece. So in fact, I think I might have used my grandfather's right angle, which I haven't got out. No, not that piece. Anyway, a right angle or something to go in there just so I can put them up. But you need to have lots of hands, so maybe have a spare person to help you. Now, yes, you end up with these rough edges if where you're getting your supplier doesn't provide nicely finished edges. Maybe they use laser cutting or something. I'm not sure what else they would use, but this is just cut on a bandsaw. So you've got a nice rough edge there, or not a nice one. But then, of course, when you put your cement in, you'll see you don't get that perfectly perfect. You'll see a bit of cement showing in there, a little bit of, not so great finish there, but it's certainly a good cheap way to make a big box. So the key is to decide what size surface you've got. That determines the depth and the width, and you can then decide what height you want, but really you want it to be you don't need it to be square, but you decide what height you want, and bear in mind that your width this way must be of the whole box must be 4 let me get this right, is that 440? No, it must be 4 oh dear, is it 420 plus? Yeah, it must be 420 plus the 5 and the 5, but you could be going for 4 millimeters. But the key there is to make sure that, so these pieces, all of these pieces in mine are almost square, and the difference is that 2 times 5 millimeter to take it down to, so I've got 420 and by 400. Okay, so I hope that's useful to you. Not sure if there are any more tips or tricks on this. You might want to buff up these, sand them down perhaps, and then, but of course you might end up sanding that down and then having to buff that, the nice bits. So you might want to do these before you assemble it. Now, what I've also done in there, you can see just behind the Smart Roadster, I've got an upright Perspex piece. So I'm supporting the next shelf up with a piece at the back there. But of course, I have to support it at this level too, which I'm doing. So, I've put Perspex pieces in there. You might just put a piece of pipe that you've chopped off, a plastic pipe, plumbing pipe you've chopped off to the right length, and you just have it in there as a prop, or anything that's just going to stay upright. They kind of brace themselves in because of the weight of the things on the shelves, just bowing the shelves ever so slightly. But I've had this for some years. It's reasonably hard to get into the front, put Colin Chapman the right way up, but I just shifty this forward on there. So you probably want a surface that's reasonably slippery, so it's easy to pull your whole case forwards, and then you can get in the back and take cars out, put cars in, replace things. You have to be careful, of course, when reaching across, not to touch any aerials, particularly on these Le Mans cars. They have lots of little fine aerials. Now, of course, if you've noticed any cars or models that you're curious about in this little video on this case, do look in my archive. So do subscribe to the channel, have a look through my playlists and videos, and you'll find virtually all of these cars covered in there. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that's useful to you. I think something this size, 420 by 400, is going to cost you around $130 US, or £110 UK. Happy case making and model collecting. Good stuff. So thank you very much for watching, and you'll hear from me again next week. Bye.